How do you think we can actually galvanize these conservatives who feel the same way about California leaving and agreeing? How can we galvanize them to actually put words to action and do something about it?
What are you talking about? Are we talking about libertarian conservatives or conservatives far right of red states? I mean, because
libertarians, the conservatives.
Because right now this discussion is about what we noted at the Libertarian Convention.
Yeah, I think if we hit the fewer taxes, more freedom. I mean, that's what my whole experience growing up.
3 points.
Go ahead, Hal.
No, and my apologies, but it's the 3 points, and this speaks to the country in general. It speaks to America. The fact that we actually walked in and had this conversation of 3 points, and this was in some ways almost revolutionary. Mm-hmm. You guys really think this way? Personal freedoms, general economic responsibility, and a suitable sized government.
Yep.
These shouldn't have been revolutionary points. They shouldn't have been points that were like, oh, you believe this? Mm. I don't know, and from those 3 points.
Yeah, Kiki.
I got one. Yeah, go for it. 3 points.
No, from those 3 points is where all the conversation really began with the libertarians. Sure. It's where the conversation begins with the conservatives as well. Left, right, or center, Californians don't necessarily, like I said, want a government that's going to have to borrow money to operate.
Yeah.
We don't want to have to borrow money to operate. We should be able to live within our means. 5th largest economy in the world. Other nations are able to do this. California should be able to do this.
Well, I would like to point out on that point that
let him finish. Go on.
Keep going.
No, it's a matter of we should be able to do this. Individual rights. What? Individual rights?
Yeah. Smaller.
But we're not. It's like whether we're talking about guns or who you're going to marry, or property rights or what have you. These are not heavy lifts, left, right, or center. These are not heavy lifts.
No,
they're not. And we can sit in the same room and talk. We can sit in the same room with these people and talk. It's on the federal level.
Yeah.
That this conversation has become so toxic.
Yeah.
That's where it's become bad.
Yeah.
That's like we're all Californians.
Right.
It's like nobody wants to see our beaches destroyed. It's like the left love the ocean, the right love the money that comes in from our tourism.
Even if they don't like the ocean.
I know plenty of people on the right who love the desert. You know what? They don't want to see the desert destroyed.
Kiki, go ahead.
Yeah.
Thank you. I would just like to mention also that, talking about the military-industrial complex and taking out loans to pay for our lifestyle or defenses that we don't need, that the majority of the Silicon Valley companies are funded by the DoD. 50% of the Silicon Valley's companies were given monies so that they could develop technologies to develop our defense. So, talking about paying for our own thing, we have to take that into consideration. A lot of federal dollars from the Department of Defense to support the military-industrial complex is in Silicon Valley. Sure. It will remain there because that's where everything comes from. So if we're going to cede, paying for our lifestyle and talking down the military complex, you have to understand that Silicon Valley their lifeline's going to be shut.
I disagree. I think we'll continue to make.
I hope we continue to make money, but I'm saying that their lifeline is going to be a large percentage of their lifetime is going to be diminished.
Silicon Valley.
If we see from the union, we are not going to get monies like we do from the United States government.
They're still going to come to us.
But you know what? We're not going to get grants. We're not going to get free money.
Well, Silicon Valley is transporting itself to Texas. And the reason is because Rick Perry reached out to them, and he didn't think about the fact that a whole bunch of liberals from California were going to go turn Texas purple, which is what's happening right now.
Right.
Silicon Valley.
I said it on Tucker.
Silicon Valley is moving to Texas. And if we secede, that's a massive boon to Silicon Valley, to all. I mean, if that's a concern about like
How's
not getting
boon?
federal money, because federal taxes will be removed.
So, real quick factoid. Even with all the federal grants and all the federal DOD and everything from the Fed coming into us and all the college scholarships, we are still
a
a
donor state.
Yes.
Let's get that clear.
So the
I'm
money
glad you
the
clarified
federal
that.
government gives to us, it's money it's confiscated from us.
Right.
True.
It's literally like robbing
Well,
a kid's
DOD is
lunch money and then
paying
giving him
us.
later.
We do
Technically,
have
we get 76 cents per dollar we give back.
we do have
Exactly.
one other thing that Silicon Valley wants and has wanted for decades, that an independent California can give them that America seems to not be able to give them, and that's intellectual property.
Thank you,
protection.
thank you
Yeah.
very much.
From China?
Yes.
No, we think it up. We actually think of it.
No,
We don't copy. We think of it.
No, but trying to protect us from China, and the way that they've stolen our secrets already. You think
We have a
We'll
defense
outthink
for
them.
it. No, we have a defense for it.
by not having companies, our companies in China?
No, we have a defense for it.
What is it?
Well, see, that's America.
Mhm.
You want to use the map? That's America, and that's California.
What defense against China do we have?
Ports.
Ports. Okay, great.
We have
great.
their ports.
Okay, great.
Oh yeah, right. They
So
do.
we can create tariffs,
Just also
We have their ports.
quick factoid that
and that's how we can protect ourselves from
all
intellectual
the
theft.
California-based
Not
companies
allow them to come forward.
invented all
That's
the
what I want
If they don't
technology
protect, if they don't
for the
protect, they
American
don't protect, they don't
government
I think
and the Chinese
recognize
government
it.
to spy on them. So China can't hack us because we taught them how to.
Yes,
hack.
let's not forget
The
that,
federal
guys.
government, if we were independent, can't hack us because we taught them how to hack.
Right.
Guys,
We
and-
invented all this stuff.
thank you.
Nobody can hack us because we're the best at it.
Thank
We're the
you.
dominant
Thank you.
ape on the
Thank
planet
you.
right now. We do not need to worry about being invaded technology-wise at all. We have the brain trust.
Thank
and
you.
Texas can take as many jobs as they want.
They can
Every
try all they
country in
want.
the world has tried to recreate
He's
Silicon
saying
Valley.
something totally different.
Not
You're
one of
saying
them.
Thank
done
you.
it.
Ports, we
Thank
create
you.
Silicon
tariffs.
Valley will
We
always be
create
in California.
Thank you.
If
Well,
they could
for
move to
intellectual
a cheaper
theft.
climate,
And
they
the
would.
logic would be
Thank you.
But
Thank
yes,
you.
we will lose jobs.
Become part of
And we have
So-
we have one more a secret weapon. We can take away all their iPhones and they're
Yeah,
cut
yeah,
out.
To get to your point, this what Texas tried to do, it tried about 15, 20 years ago. It started with Perry, I believe it was Perry, that came over here and tried to schmooze our businesses to moving to Texas. And some of them did. Some are still doing it. Texas is always the option. Like Travis Matthews, who makes golf apparel, is shutting down their facility here in Orange County, in Costa Mesa, and moving the entire thing, they sell shit globally, to Texas because the labor rates were cheaper.
Well,
And the taxes.
Go ahead. Guess what?
And the taxes, you right.
And the taxes,
Right,
you know.
Aaron. You right, Aaron.
But here,
Well,
okay, finish your thought, and then
They'll
I'll
be back.
go ahead.
well,
so Travis Matthews is the
Ingredients
brainchild of a California. It got bought over by.
Ooh.
It got bought over by what's the other golf company that starts with a C? Big one.
Callaway.
Callaway buys Travis Matthews, moves it to Texas. So, move. There goes your zero creativity, zero innovation. And I said it before, and I said it again, and it suits it right now. I can't think of one significant thing that the other 49
when he
states
says
have
this.
done
I
in the
love when he
last
says
50
this.
years that is of any significance to humankind. If you can name one thing in the past 50 years, please let me be
Oh, in
aware
the
of it.
last 50 years?
In the past
Oh, I don't know.
50
I was
years.
going to say Virginia invented freedom, but I mean,
Oh,
no,
they
no.
invented? They invented freedom? I don't know about that.
that
bro.
was a long time
Actually,
ago.
to go back to the point about Texas, it's like there is a term
Right,
for there's
1700
a
America wrong.
but there's a term for this.
I've got something from
It's called the
1959.
Toyota effect.
The Toyota effect?
Toyota packed up everything and moved it to Texas.
Right.
Mm.
And Toyota experienced the worst sales they've ever seen, the most recalls they ever had. Quality,
No standards.
quality plunged.
The biggest,
Health insurance,
Quality
health insurance rates went up.
the
No,
biggest,
quality
Planes.
plunged. They lost tremendous amounts of market share to Nissan and the other Japanese companies, and their workers, especially
Yep.
In Texas.
especially their high end workers who were basically Japanese officials, hated it. For the first time in their lives working for Toyota, their wives were having trouble going to the supermarket.
That's a shame.
Well, what do you mean?
Now that's
They were facing prejudice.
Yeah.
that's that's just horrendous. This is another reason why we just need to
Yeah, so it's not. I wish
In
it were.
this
I wish
day-
it were.
Did you guys see the Netflix show about it's called like the company about how a Japanese glass company comes to Tennessee. And, no, Chinese company buys a Tennessee plant, and it's a glass making company, and it's very interesting. It's on Netflix.
Yeah,
Clashes
well,
of Chinese culture.
this
and
is
American
why
culture.
Silicon
Yeah.
will never be moving to Alabama. That's for sure.
It's a matter of Toyota.
NASA's in Alabama.
Toyota in California had eclipsed Mercedes for quality.
Wow.
Toyota in California had eclipsed Ford for sales. Toyota in California had basically became the biggest import automobile company in the world. They moved to Texas. Then they got this sweetheart deal from Texas. Well, they moved to Texas. Within 5 years, they're no longer the quality leader. And people generally talk about Toyota. They don't talk about them in the glowing terms they used to.
Yeah, right.
They've experienced massive amounts of, like I said, massive recalls.
You know what Aaron was saying about turning Texas purple. Notice when people come to California, when a lot of Americans do come to California, they adapt to our way of life here. They quickly adapt and assimilate right away. Notice when we go to other states, all of a sudden we take our culture over there because guess what? We're Californian.
Well,
It's just a dominant culture.
That's that bumper sticker. Don't California my Idaho. Don't California my Texas. Don't California my Arizona.
Oh my God, no!
And
Serious.
And maybe exiting, yeah. I mean,
There's a
conservatives should look forward to that. I mean,
Very
they should want it even more if especially
Texas is the state that's taking in the most Californians ever. I mean, the Californians that are leaving are going to Texas. So we're slowly making it more a blue state.
It's going to be a blue state.
By our presence also and by our culture.
Aaron, if you went to Texas right now, they call you a filthy live, bro.
Every else place is shitty. Who the fuck wants to
maybe.
go to
No,
I mean,
well,
I like Texas in a lot of ways.
barbecue
I
in
like
Texas? That's
Texas
what people
too.
would probably
And
say.
I don't know. I don't think they would call me a filthy liberal.
Well, here
I mean, I
they would.
blog
You would be very liberal.
regularly. I blog regularly for the Abbeville Institute. So
You would be considered liberal, if not you're Californian no matter what. Okay,
Yeah.
you're a Californian over there. You're Californian. They'll never let that leave you. You're never going to be fully Texan.
Well,
You'll be the Californian.
that's why I quoted Hank Hill in my speech
Yeah,
because like God forbid someone from California comes to
Right.
Texas.
So we were discussing the Texas miracle.
my cousin moved from Anaheim Hills to Austin, and because liberals have invaded ruined the entire California, so he got his house for sale. And he bought a ranch out in one of the suburbs off of Austin, and he asked me to come out there for Thanksgiving, and I'm like, why? It's Texas, and he's like, man, there's a river in my backyard, and I go, what river is it? He's like, I don't know, it's just a river. I'm like, is it big? He's like, yeah, it's kind of big, man. I'm like, well, can you throw a rock over it? He's like, I don't think so. I'm like, what's your address? He gives me his address. I Google it up. It's the Colorado River in his backyard, right?
Wow.
It's a big river.
Yeah.
I even do more research on it. That river and that lake happens to be a Bass Pro tournament lake, so there's good fishing. I'm like, I'm there. I gotta go fish this lake. So I fly to Texas, and he picks me up, and the first place we go and eat is In-N-Out. Okay? In-N-Out Burger, a California staple as far as fast food is concerned.
Yeah.
I was surprised they were in Texas. That's his way of saying, hey, we got it here too.
Yeah.
We're just as cool. So I was okay. I went on some barbecue or whatever, but whatever. It's my first. I was hungry off that flight. Ate the burger. We're I got a little bit of asthma from the plane, so I'm like, hey, can you stop at a drugstore? I need to get some antihistamine. We stop at the drugstore. I get some antihistamine, some soda, a couple other things. I put it on the counter, and she rings me up. I pay it, and I go, where can I get a bag? And she's like, no, there's a plastic bag ban. We don't have plastic bags. Now, this is about 6 months before we here did the plastic bag ban. Austin already banned the plastic bags. I'm like, geez Louise. I grabbed my stuff and walked out of the store like this in Austin, Texas. Get in the car. I'm like, you guys ban plastic bags? Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like, a matter of fact, like, oh, yeah, great. So we're driving back to his house still. And then he's telling me about how great it is that he can shoot anybody that's on his property. And if anybody looks suspicious, he'll call the sheriff and they'll come. And if they arrest him, then he gets a reward or part of the whatever the money was. So he wants to call a cop. Like, that'll work in California, right? Like, that would work in California. Everybody would be calling the cops on everybody over here just trying to get a little reward. So as we're driving, he points out a tree, a little sapling with a little red tag on it. He's like, see that tree? See that tree? I'm like, yeah, what about it? He's like, man, you touch that tree, you go to jail. And I go, you go to jail? I'm like, what's up with that tree? So it's protected. I'm like, you're conserving trees. He's like, well, come on, let's get this straight, bro. You have In-N-Out Burger. You ban plastic bags. And you're tree hugging. And you moved out of California? Let's get something great. If anything, you made this California, man, as we're passing the Target by. Target. They have a Target.
Well, one of the things. One of the things we're talking about is it's like the Texas Miracle, where Perry was bringing California companies to Texas. Unfortunately, from a long-term standpoint, and I'm not going to talk about the fiscal problems that this has created for Texas, but basically what it did do was Texas property values started to go up. Eventually, the problem with the Texas Miracle is that Texas Miracle ended about 5-6 years ago. And the reason the Texas Miracle ended was because it's now expensive to give away these properties.
Right.
It's not cheaper to. In fact, actually, it's more expensive as of this year from a tax standpoint and a property tax standpoint and what have you. It is now more expensive, or as expensive to work in Texas as it is to work in California.
I heard that.
So they have kind of, by bringing these California companies to Texas, and bringing California people to Texas, they have California their Texas.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's what
They do
seeing.
have their
Probably
they
in
do
ways
have
that
the
they
in and out,
didn't
and they do
realize.
have the people who are putting these policies in place, and they're getting high property values, and housing is getting too expensive, etc., etc.
And look out for homelessness as they're doing that.
They're going to have an undocumented worker influx there. They're not sure what to do with because it's cheap labor. If they don't have it already, I'm sure they do.
The Texas thing on immigration, and it's like that's not the topic we're on at the moment. But
No, I know.
The Texas,
But they're going to have all the
Texas
issues that we do.
The Texas attitude about immigration is sort of a little.
It's more libertarian because
It has to be.
they don't have. See, here's the thing: the way Texans view immigration, one of the reasons why California has had at certain periods in the last 30 years such heated debate over immigration, most conservatives will say is because we have a welfare state here, and Texas doesn't. Yeah, and Texas doesn't have.
They do say that.
And Texas doesn't have income tax. So if you live in Texas, you pay the same taxes that Texans pay, and you're stiffing the federal government at the same time.
And how big is their welfare program?
They don't. I mean, they have some, but not much. They don't have much. No. So from their perspective, it's not that big a deal. I mean, this is why I've been mostly an open borders conservative for a long time, because I'm not a big fan of welfare states in general. So, yeah.
You're talking about like
unemployment
insurance.
Actually, the point here was.
Yeah, I'm not saying that I'm not a libertarian in the sense that I'm against all forms of social welfare. I just think that when it's on a smaller scale, it's better managed, and it should have some kind of incentives for, work incentives and stuff like that. And I'm just more for communities in general taking care of their own. in general across the
Well,
board.
that's I just want to say it for the camera. That's one of the big points of libertarians that I found out in the convention. It's localism. I mean,
Yes,
practically
absolutely. Yeah.
everybody agrees in localism is
Yeah.
that the smaller the communities are taken care of,
Yep.
and that's not necessarily a point we disagree with
No.
as liberals at all. We feel that we
Good,
would
yeah.
be better served with local governments, answering down the line and not being so. We don't want the same thing. It's like, we're so far away from Washington, but we don't want to be like in Southern California. We don't want to be that far from Sacramento, where it's the same.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. We're not being heard here for our problems in LA or in Long Beach or in this. We want our local governments to represent us at the state level.
Our conservatives are generally speaking more socially liberal.
Absolutely, I
Our
like our
socialism.
conservatives.
Yeah, of course.
Our conservatives
Um,
rock, dude.
If our conservatives in California are more socially liberal, it's like they don't care who gets married. They don't care.
No.
Yeah, it's like the argument, the places where we cross, and this is what we were talking about the libertarians in the first place. In a way, it wasn't fair what we did. I said, it's like we're going to go with 3 points. We're going to talk about individual rights. We're going to talk about reducing the size of government. We're going to talk about fiscal responsibility. This was a duh kind of moment. It was a conversation opener.
Right.
These are California points. I mean, Jerry Brown was fiscally speaking absolutely pinch penny.
It was.
Absolutely pinch penny. I mean, to the point where some programs that probably should have funded, he was very slow to fund. California liberals don't want this. We've seen what happens in California when California operates beyond its means. California liberals don't necessarily want California to operate beyond its means. So what we end up talking about is, well, how about regulation of business or land use or so forth? Well, those are very standard, run-of-the-mill, may I say, boring political conversations that you're going to get anywhere you go.
Yeah.
Not, it's not the point the finger and call a woman, is it choice or is it baby killing?
Right.
It's like, no, these things are not.
Yeah.
These are not really California issues. We need to suppress the vote in this area so we can elect more what?
Yeah.
Californians don't. It's like, we just get mad when we get swapped over to mail-in ballots versus what have you without our permission.
That's what happened to
It was kind of what happened. And it's like, and the DNC, or basically the state went where we were trying to save money.
Yeah.
The state was like, we were trying to save money. It's like, well, no. These are what we end up with. We don't end up talking about in California about, well, how much globalism do we, how much of a global empire do we require?
Right.
Nobody's having this conversation. I have never sat in a restaurant, a bar, or what have you, and heard anybody say, you know what California needs? We need a global empire.
Yeah. Right.
We
Right.
need the California dollar to be the petrol dollar, dominant dollar.
Or we need to go to war and invade this country. This is something Californians will never say.
When you've got so many people watching your films, you don't need to invade.
It's what else.
But I get your point. Al. I mean, there's non-issues between Californians that we're never going to argue about, and those are the ones.
We've already invaded in so many ways. Let me ask you something, Shankar. When you were in Texas, how many McDonald's did you see?
Maybe one, maybe. I don't remember.
How many Taco Bells did you see?
There must be a lot.
Oh, dude. I don't remember, dude. I saw there was a lot more there's other stuff there.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you about, say, the McDonald's chain. Do you know that there's a McDonald's on the Silk Road that in the town where Genghis Khan used to camp?
Right.
Do you know there are McDonald's in every single station along the Buddha path his birthplace, his where he was enlightened, where he taught, and where he died. There's a McDonald's in each one.
Wow.
They're all over the place. And
so what's
Taco Bell is also from California. I know because I'm from the
You're
town.
talking about exporting.
Yeah, I'm from the town where both of these things came. I ate at McDonald's #1.
Listen, man, there's not a man on this planet, there's not a person on this planet that can go to sleep at night and not consume something from California that day.
That's right. That's
Period.
right. We've invaded already.
Well,
We don't need to invade.
well, just look at the technology, just the phones. I mean,
That alone.
basically that alone, everybody uses
turn on the
every
TV,
day. So
yeah.
Game
right
over.
there,
You got a TV.
Yeah, there you
you
go.
know,
over.
I mean,
go.
it's it's
But we're not. But no one wants to do it at gunpoint. No one wants to spend $1 trillion a year to do it at gunpoint.
Right.
No,
Exactly.
conservative or centrist or left. No one wants to do this at gunpoint.
Yeah.
No one in California is going. You know what we need to do? We need to destroy our coast
yeah,
with more oil rigs
exactly.
because they've done
But they're
such a
doing it.
marvelous job
Yeah.
in the Gulf Coast. We don't necessarily need this. I mean, there's a glut of oil in the market in the world market. We don't need to drill. We don't need to destroy our coast. Conservatives are like, yeah, because this is good. It's like conservatives are like, well, yeah, you're just trading one business for another. And honestly, if it's a libertarian standpoint, it would be more like, well, if the tourist is a local business and the oil business is from Texas, you got to give the nod to the local guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
You got to give the nod to the local guy. It's like he's got a right. He's got a right to make his living where he's at.
Right.
These guys don't have a right to come in from outside and destroy his
Yeah.
You don't want California fishers to end up like the ones in our all sea. There are no more.
And
So
I said, we're sitting around the table. We have too many isms.
Yeah.
We have too many
yeah,
isms.
and I want to say also for the coast, like the besides the economic, all that stuff, I don't think there's any conservative California conservative that doesn't think about the impact that if we have an oil spill or something like down their
They're
shore.
environmentally
I don't think I
Yeah.
could go to my friend that's a super conservative and say, do you want to stare at this thing from Texas that could spill over and your kid's going to be swimming because they have kids, and so why would they want that?
California
That's
conservatives, yeah.
Yes, that's a common thing we have. We don't
Right.
even. I never argue with my friend about stuff like that.
So we're sitting.
And he doesn't believe in climate change,
Well,
but he
that's it.
does believe in that.
We're sitting here talking.
He
So now
doesn't
we're sitting here
believe.
talking to libertarians,
No.
and the overarching thing with talking to libertarians was we never said anything that wasn't painfully obvious.
Yeah.
Right.
That wasn't really
They
painfully
hate
obvious.
it.
Well, no, it's one of those things. But after listening to a national narrative for so long,
Yeah.
Yeah.
suddenly we sounded California independence movement, which many people consider to be one of the biggest, fringiest movements around. Well, on top of all of this, it's like, and secession, short of revolution, secession is the most radical political element you can have. It's like,
Yeah.
and suddenly we're the most reasonable cats in the room.
Yeah. We're getting there, bud.
Suddenly we're the most reasonable guys in the room. Because I don't have to necessarily agree with my conservative friend on levels of regulation. I personally, I come a little more from the left than I believe you do on this. I believe that unregulated businesses behave very badly.
Of course.
Well,
Yeah, they definitely can. Yeah.
they can. I've heard I sat there with a libertarian and I bit my tongue. And whoever he is, if he's watching this, forgive me. I kind of bit my tongue because he said the problem is that libertarianism has never true libertarianism and true free market.
Yeah, the whole communism.
True free market has
Somalia.
never really happened. Has never really happened anywhere in the world. And I'm like, I bit it back and I went, actually, you are wrong.
Somalia is a great example.
Well,
Yes, thank you.
no, Somalia is not the example.
Well,
We have an American example.
Oh.
Do we?
Yes, we do. We called it the Industrial Revolution.
Right.
We're basically the government was in the pocket and was controlled by business.
Again,
We had business moving so fast the government was not able to keep up. So we had terribly rapidly expanding business.
Yeah.
And very, very powerful, very unregulated businesses, and they behaved horribly.
Yeah.
It sounds
Well,
like
that's
now,
how they
though.
became libertarian.
Really?
Right.
But they behave horribly. Now this is not, I agree. This is not. It's not a pure example. It's not a pure example. And a libertarian will point that out. But then again, in this next statement, he'll say, "Well, you've seen how communism works, like in Russia, right? It's like they didn't do communism either.
No, they didn't. Thank you.
They didn't do communism in Russia either. It's like, well, they did communism in the same way that this was capitalism.
Right.
So
Right.
there's not a pure form,
No.
but we've seen. It's like I tend to believe that businesses have the more, generally speaking, especially corporate, when they get very large very large corporate structures, they have the morality of a cockroach. They will eat everything until there is nothing left to eat, and then they will eat each other.
Yes.
They'll live on the corpses of each other until you end up with the stock market collapse, basically a colony collapse.
Right. Marx would call this the laws of capitalist development. You can't
Right.
repeal them.
But then again, if you point this out to like red state conservatives and stuff, and you say, well, look at capitalism; it's not working on so many levels, and then they'll say the same thing. They'll go, that's because it's not capitalism done right, especially with states like California, impeding their will. So every side always says, well, just because it wasn't done right, it wasn't done
I
right.
say the same thing about Russia.
But going back to a California standpoint, it's like one of those. But that's a discussion.
Yeah.
It's not a. This has to be this way.
Right.
It's like this is where I would come from.
Yeah.
In a discussion point.
They shut down Newsom in that video.
So as we discuss it, it's like, but these are boring discussions.
Yeah.
But we were pointing out to the libertarians that, technically speaking, what we're hoping for is for California to be independent, so we can have absolutely boring day-to-day talks about how to make life for people in California better.
5 more minutes, and then it's Matt's speech.
After it's like, and that's what we were pointing out to the libertarians. I mean, basically, it's like we cross on these points, on all of these points. We have room for discussion. We don't necessarily have to agree. Well, that's the nature of politics. We're not always going to agree on anything.
Mm-hmm.
But we can talk.
Yes.
As Californians.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Not as Americans, we can't talk. As Californians, we can talk.
Yeah.
And we can decide. We can come to consensus. We can use our argument.
Well, and if we can't come to consensus, we're a pretty big place. We can give more local sovereignty. People
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
have their. Yeah.
I would just like to add to that to the indigenous, I would like to propose, in fact, as a movement, and in solidarity, we say that, once independent, we would actually offer this land back to the indigenous. Now,
Yeah, I love that idea.
just
in some way.
this is what do you want us to do with it? Just in some way, just let them. They're not